John Krebbs. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good. It's a little bit laggy. Am I laggy to you?
It pick up in a little bit. I
Okay, no,
think we're
there you
good.
are. Good.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, we're
That's
good.
much better. Sorry.
So it's not every day you get to have your boss on your live stream here. So I'm excited to have you on, and I appreciate you coming on.
Hey, I'm happy to be here, and I appreciate what you're doing. Building the brand for us down in Houston. You're doing a great job.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, just I remember the first time I introduced myself to you, and you kind of told me your what you were thinking about me doing on the team with the multifamily group, and it's kind of coming to fruition in just a short amount of time. So I would love for you to talk about how, your journey here, kind of your overnight success that maybe took 10 years, but how did you, when you graduated college to, starting the multifamily, how did just spend a few minutes on how you started that?
Sure. Yeah, it's actually overnight success. That's 15 years this month from
Oh,
when
good.
I first started trying to get into real estate. In college, I bought a quadruplex, and throughout college, went to work for a. My parents helped me get a loan on it, and I lived there while I was going to Texas Tech. Um, I worked for a couple different companies, like management companies, like actually running leases in the office.
Right.
Um, you know, doing make readies. I mean, kind of learning the business really at the ground floor. Was kind of trying to be an entrepreneur out there in Lubbock, and my career was not going very far, so I moved to Dallas in November of 2013 and went to work at Henry S. Miller, who's a kind of a regional player, but with a storied history where Roger Staubach worked and
Yeah, yeah.
Herb Weitzman, some of the and got to know a lot of the different, sort of real estate, um, practices there, industrial, office, retail, multifamily, um, and worked there for about a year and a half on the multifamily management team, and then went over to Sperry Van Ness and had a great mentor over there, and was there for about 3 years, and then met my business partner over there, Paul Yazbek, and we decided to um, strike out on our own with the multifamily group back in January of 2018. And since then, grown, taken on some folks, and just opened up a little office in Tulsa, and brought you and Chris Johnson there in Houston, and opened up that office. So it's been fun. It's been good, and you are uh, a really great addition.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate you taking your chance on me because not a lot of real estate experience beforehand, but I had the consulting and everything worked out. And so I think, for this series is back to school. So I'm going back to school, and John, you're going to teach us how to find the off-market deals, how to build a relationship with brokers, and making sure that, as us, that we're putting the right deals in their plate. And, what questions do we need to be asking them to save them all the amount of time to get the right deal in front of them. So I think from just the beginning is, what are common challenges that buyers and brokers have in communicating on trying to know the right deal for them?
Yeah, I think, I've certainly learned as a broker to a few, qualifying questions to kind of ask right off the bat. Are there any, um, starting with your basic real estate question, what markets are you interested in? Because we're in a lot of markets. We close deals in San Antonio, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, um, Houston. So what market do they want to be in? Are there any vintage requirements? A lot of folks don't like, you got asbestos and lead paint prior to 1981, older deals.
Mhm.
You've got some people that like more challenging, what they call a heavier lift. You've got, people that um, just want to be in that 1980s vintage, and then people that are looking for nicer stuff. So vintage, and then are there any kind of non-starters? So some folks don't like flat roofs or two pipe, a boiler chiller system property. Um, some folks don't want any affordability component, be it low income housing tax credits or housing assistance payments. Um, so, and then obviously their experience and that plays a big part in it too, and kind of qualifying them as a prospect.
Yeah. So coming to you already with, what they want, it seems like it saves a lot of time on both of our hands than, they're not really sure what market they want to be in, what criteria specifically. Is that kind of what you've seen?
Yeah, the more they can, and it's okay to say, look, I do hear all the time, we're willing to look at anything. I think that's an okay answer. But it kind of has to be, um, true that they're just, maybe somebody's trying to get their foot in the door and they want to look at everything.
Yeah.
Um, but for the most part, what I've found is most companies, and individuals that are successful in buying, multifamily have a strategy for a specific segment in the market.
So let's say I'm an individual investor. I'm starting to build my criterias. I know what location, I know what vintage, I know what kind of unit count I want. How do I start, getting in front of you to get the deals, off-market deals, such in this competitive environment?
Yeah, I would tell folks that the best way to start seeing off-market deals is to, buy a listed deal. I mean, and I know that's probably not the answer that everybody, would like to hear, but that is really what's going to get you on the radar of my team, our team, and other brokers, in the market, is when they see, oh, that deal sold, and now, oh, okay, who bought it? Oh, it's this buyer, and that's the way you're going to start seeing, because oftentimes we'll look at who's buying right now,
Hmm.
and if we don't know them, reach out, get to know them, and start putting deals in front of them. So and if that is maybe isn't an option, um, because it's competitive, like you mentioned. Um, the other way is just to um, sort of what we like is when you ask some good questions, a few good questions, but not kind of overwhelming, and then maybe say, hey, do you have a chance to look at my, go over my underwriting with me, and take the time to underwrite it, and you know we can look at how you're seeing the deal and how we're seeing it, and generally, if you're way off the mark on your pricing expectations, which is one of those questions I'd probably ask you on the front end, is
Hmm.
what are your return expectations? If you're looking for an 8 cap in Dallas Fort Worth, I'd tell you you're unrealistic.
Yeah.
That's not really the market, and so chances are that our underwriting is going to be way off, versus what the buyer, excuse me, what the seller's asking versus what you're willing to pay. So to the extent that you are in line with where the market is as far as returns, um, then we should be able to have a pretty good conversation about where your underwriting
Hmm.
is, and where the seller's expectations are.
Right, right. And I'm sure I've made this mistake when I first called a broker. I did my first underwriting, I called a broker. What are the don'ts? Do not do this. We've all made the mistake, so we can't judge anybody. But what is something that's just like the unwritten rule, like in baseball? Don't walk across the mound with the pitch when the pitcher's there. What are those in working with a broker?
Oh gosh, it's I think even on any deal, if it's listed or off market, you'll see folks come in and really try and, beat up the deal and point out all this stuff that's wrong with it, or, why the seller's expectations are way out of line and all that. It's not really that helpful, because I don't think there's ever been a time where, it can be to point out, some stuff in a tactful way can be helpful, but, a lot of times people are just going, oh, well, look at that and look at this and, and just kind of bad mouthing the property, and it doesn't help. It doesn't serve any purpose to tell, to point out all the stuff that's wrong with it to me, I would advise people just, I think it's okay to look at that stuff but to point it out and make a big fuss about it. I don't know that necessarily does anything to help the buyer.
Right. And when you're sending them off market deals, I think something that has been great to see is how quickly they respond with the underwriting of it's yes or no for them, because it helps us to hey, let's keep on moving forward. Let's find you another deal versus, or do they still want the deal and all that? So I think good communication is also vital. So what kind of communication do you think is also important from a broker and buyer perspective?
Yeah, a quick no is fine. A quick no is just fine. I appreciate people's time, and I've underwritten a lot of deals myself, so I know what it takes to underwrite a deal. Especially if you don't have a great model, it can really, take a long time. But there's work involved, right? So, I try not to send out too many deals that I think there's no chance of them unsellable, right? That they're way out of line with reality. But yeah, I appreciate people's time, and if I'm sending you something and you're just like, hey, that's not a fit, that's fine. I think what we're really trying to do is establish, are these folks underwriting in line with the market? Are they looking at these deals where are deals getting done right now today, and they're coming in that, at least close to that price point. And if they are, well, then you're going to keep seeing deals. If it's kind of like, well, the last 3 deals I showed you, you were, 15, 20% off of, and I understand, being lower than what the seller wants, there's always usually some, spread there. But if you're way, way off, the deal flow is probably going to slow down because, you're just clearly not in line with where the market is.
Yeah. So I think what we establish is, understand your investment criteria so that we're getting the best deals in front of you, establishing good communication with the broker, back and forth. And so what might be another thing that maybe following up? How often do you want the buyer to call the broker? Do you are open to that? Because sometimes the buyers don't feel like they should be calling the broker. They don't want to bother them or stuff like that.
I think it's very important for new buyers to follow up and stay on the mind of brokers. Especially if they're willing to take the time to underwrite it and they're getting close to the strike and they've answered kind of the, questions of, where's the debt coming from? Where's the equity coming from? Who's going to manage it? And they're prepared, like they could actually execute if we were able to come to terms on a deal. But yeah, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? So when somebody calls and says, hey, do you have anything for me? I like to help people. I'm in the business of making deals. So I look through my inventory, see what I've got, and try to find something that's a fit for them. Whereas it can be easy to, there's lots of times in my career I've gone, I should have showed him that deal. I knew they were wanting to buy something like that, and it just slipped my mind. So staying on top of a broker's mind, I think, is important. And I'd say, timing, maybe, check in once a month, once every couple months, kind of
Yeah.
like I would, you know, um, maybe it's more frequent if, um, you've got a really active off-market brokerage shop, like ours. You might check in more often, um, maybe once every couple weeks or something.
Yeah. Can you talk about maybe how the multifamily group, how we run our brokerage and setting deals that are maybe a little bit different than industry? Because that's something that I was very pro for when I came on board.
Yeah, well, not to give away too much of the secret sauce,
Yeah.
but you know, what we found, and even recently, especially recently with COVID-19, is that these fully marketing a deal and having I hear of people doing 25 tours, and
Mhm.
um, you know um, that it's just not the environment we're in right now. Groups aren't flying around the country looking at deals as much. The managers and maintenance folks, and um, you know people coming into their place and being, it's just not really viable right now. So we've kind of taken the approach of, we know the market, we know the buyers, and if an owner's just ready to um, do a quiet deal, we can do that for them, and we've been able to do that on probably half the deals we did last year, and
Yeah.
it's probably going to be even a bigger percentage this year, um, because it's always good to market a property. It's always good to get it exposed, but kind of what we're able to do um, is expose it in a way that's not so disruptive to the staff and to the residents,
Yeah.
um, and that's basically what we've tried to build.
Yeah. And I think one also thing is also on ways to find off market deals is your relationship with other investors. You know, it may not be a good fit for yourself, but I often have seen them refer to other friends, other partners that, hey, this deal is great for you. So if you're starting off and you don't really have the network, how do you build that network that, you're not only trying to find deals from brokers, but, other investors and partners? Like how are people doing it, especially in this era?
That's a good question. I think they're watching shows like this, listening to podcasts, doing old fashioned research. Well, I guess it's not really old fashioned research on the internet,
Yeah.
trying to find like minded people, meetup groups, um, you know, whatever. Different people have different things that works for them. But there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of good material that didn't exist, 15 years ago, 10 years ago on the internet. You couldn't. I don't think you could get near the quality of data and education that you can get now. Um, so I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think when I first, was beginning my real estate education, it was, I thought I needed to go to another 2-year master's and learn how to do that. But I think just through, all these online platforms, and it has sped up the process. And I think having a mentor, just like yourself or myself, has sped up the process even more. So I think, if an investor were to try to find deals, talk to someone who's already getting deals from brokers and ask them what they're doing.
Yeah, that's a great advice. Yeah, have somebody that's like your mentor, make a warm introduction to a broker, and it'll definitely go a long way. Or even if you're making that introduction yourself, to reference, hey, I'm a student of someone's, or I'm working closely with these folks over here, and
Hmm.
that familiarity will certainly help.
Yeah, yeah. Um, you know, I think when you're searching for an off market deal versus a listed, what are things that it speeds up the process? Because I've often heard you share with me, or just sometimes too much time can kill a deal. And so what do they need to have prepared? Hey, we got you the deal. What do they need to just advance the process, keep the momentum moving forward?
Yeah, I would say, a budget from their management company is what a lot of folks like to get, a debt quote from a lender. Um, like you mentioned, a mentor to help guide them through the process. Um, those are the kind of things that stick out in my mind. Some capacity to spend some time on it. Maybe, another thing I'll ask folks is, which attorney are you going to use to drop the contract, or do you want us to use a promulgated form, or would you want the seller to produce the first draft of the contract?
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not only getting the offer, but helping them prepare and vet the offer so that the delta between the asking price and theirs is as close as possible to get them the deal. What other questions are you asking to vet the offer?
Yeah, I actually got a little cheat sheet here. So making sure that if they haven't had a formal tour of the property, did they go by there and shop it? Did they visit? Did they drive through the parking lot? I mentioned checking in on their returns, and often I'd like to get a budget of CapEx that they're plan on spending. What are they accounting for with the CapEx, capital expenditures they're gonna, or capital expenses they're gonna need for the property. I mentioned asking about the equity. Is this going to be a syndication, or is there somebody that or some group that this money's coming from, and what's the process for them approving it? Are they going to need to sign off on the deal? Are they going to need to visit the deal? I'm just kind of to understand that process so I can relay it to the seller. I mentioned, who are you going to have manage it? Have they put together a budget? Who's financing the property? Have you got a debt quote? And then little things like if the seller's open to it, which title company would you want to use? Everything we can do to give the seller some comfort in the offer, and ourselves just in the buyer's ability to close. It serves everybody, right? It's going to serve buyer, seller, and broker to, and that's where, my experience in doing deals comes in, and can help make it for a smoother transaction.
Right. So it seems like, if you're a first time investor, you don't know anything, you don't have any relationships. It's making the introduction, through a mentor or yourself, having your criteria prepared, what do you want from a unit perspective, vintage, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Who's going to be doing the lending, who's your attorney, I think it's like all that having prepared before going into the deal can save you time and brings credibility to you, it seems like.
Absolutely. Because if somebody doesn't have answers to those questions, then they're not ready to.
And I think that's okay. I think, because I remember when I wanted to buy a property and I didn't have any of those questions. So I realized it was a gut check that I need to go back to the drawing board. I don't know as much as I should know, because this is real money out there, and especially if you're raising money and help taking other friends and families, like you don't want to lose it. And so that was an eye opening for myself.
That's right. I was same here. I learned a lot just by jumping in, but the quadruplex I mentioned that I bought back in 2005 was we paid $50,000 for it. and
Yeah.
spend another 30,000 getting in. So that that amount of money is something you can kind of jump into and fake your way through. When you're talking about, most of the deals we work on are anywhere from 2.5 to 15 million. It's a lot. It's a lot different. That's there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think for class right now, I think you dropped a lot of knowledge on how to find an off market deal, how to speak with the broker, what do you need to have prepared, and all that. I think just to close up class for today, John, what are you most proud of your team, and what are you looking forward to and working in this real estate industry?
I think I'm most proud of my team in that we have a bunch of guys that are easy to work with. They're guys get frustrated. Folks. I mean, sometimes people get upset, but for the most part, everybody here is wanting to be helpful, wanting to be honest, wanting to put together a deal that's just where the buyer and seller both are happy at the end.
Right.
Which is challenging, because things come up, especially in the types of properties we work on. But I'm proud of my guys for having integrity and going through that process and trying to be a professional. And then and what was the second part of the question? Sorry, Zach.
What are you looking forward to?
Gosh,
your team, and because it's grown so much so quickly.
Well, it may seem like that. We feel like it's been about a pretty appropriate,
Right.
But it's definitely grown. What I'm excited about the second half of this year. I mean, we're going to have probably our first half of the year. We got 3 deals get knocked out that were very close to closing because of COVID-19. But I think the second half of the year we're gonna have a lot more closings, and that's exciting, and everybody's, and not just Paul or I, but a lot of different guys in the office are going to be doing deals and closing the second half of the year, and then you and a bunch of the other fellows that we're training and teaching how to navigate this business are all poised to have a lot of early success. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I like seeing everybody successful because the market is so big, and that there's enough out there for everybody. There's a lot of business out there, and a lot of opportunities for people that are want to be helpful and want to learn, and are excited about real estate.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you provide a lot of knowledge, and I'm excited to be on the journey with you and see how this second half year follows. Where can people find you? Where can people know more about the team, the multifamily group? What's the best way to contact you? All that stuff.
Sure. So really, our website is the best. All of our contact information for Zach and myself, and all the other people that we work with are there. It's www.multifamilygrp.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think we had a good class today. It was extraordinary. This is COVID online class.
Do we have some folks watching? How can I tell?
Let's see here. No, not at the moment, but it's early. It's early in the process. This is the first quarter. We're not even at halftime yet.
I do think this is really cool, and look forward to seeing some other clients and potential clients come on here. This is a real platform.
The reason I started was because I learned so much from online content, and I kind of want to pay it forward, but from a perspective as a guy who's just starting off in his multifamily career. and I look at it from a different lens, and just and I think it's because there's so many people that have 20 years experience, and sometimes it can be intimidating just to learn from them. And so I hope I can bring it to in a way that's more digestible, because this is how I'm learning, as I'm going, and building these relationships with people, and just excited to be on this journey with everyone.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It is going to be really neat to watch your career evolve and watch this Houston Multifamily TV evolve as well.
Yeah, so I appreciate Professor John Krebbs on for today. I think he got a lot of knowledge that will help first time investors, or just the touch ups of the fundamentals that keep the constant communication, be prepared, all that stuff, because all those little things do matter when especially as now transactions start to pick up.
Yep. Well, thank you for having me, and yeah, I look forward to hopefully getting together soon, either there in Houston or here in Dallas.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks, John.
All right, Zach. Take care.